there. So Lyle Vance. Oh, boy. Can't make, one of these times I'm going to make it through this thing without making a mistake. But with that, we're going to have Lyle give us a word of prayer.
I'm not here.
You can do it by proxy, you can do it however you want. And then afterward, we'll have Rick Siemens give us a pledge. If you feel uncomfortable about a prayer, you can step out for a moment and then join us when it's over.
Our Father in heaven, we come before thee at this time. We're thankful to meet in this capacity in this town of Tremonton, this United States. We're grateful for the opportunity we have, the freedom we have of meeting together and making those decisions that help our community be a better community. This time we ask a blessing upon each one of us, that we will strive and continue to gather information so that good choices will be made. Bless us at this time that we might be able to know and make the right decision about a new chief of police and right now the budget, and trying to figure out where to come up with the money to pay for the employees of Tremonton. We're grateful for those who serve in our area, for our town, and our fire departments and police departments. Please bless them in their personal lives so they'll have the blessings they so stand in need of. This time we ask that thy Spirit be with us, that we might be able to communicate with each other and with those who attend. And we ask these things in the name of thy Son, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen.
The audience, please stand. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands,
One nation, under God,
indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thanks, Lyle. Even though you aren't here, we appreciate it. Thanks, Rick.
Enough.
Okay. Declaration of conflicts of interest. Council, are there any conflicts this evening we need to declare?
Mayor, I need to declare conflict of interest tonight with some of the things on the agenda.
Okay. All right. Let's see. Now, as a declaration of conflicts of interest, as I understand it, and Sean, you can correct me if this is not right, but by declaring doesn't mean they have to abstain from a vote. They can still vote. They just need to declare they had a conflict. Is that correct?
Yeah, there's two disclosures. One's a written disclosure, which we do at the beginning of the year. And then one's the oral one, which you've done right now. But you should probably identify what the conflict is, or which items that you have a conflict with that you're declaring, just for public disclosure.
Okay. My conflict of interest is on pay raises because I'm a full-time employee.
Okay. All right. Very good. Let's see. Approval of agenda, council.
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda for this evening.
I'll second it.
Been moved by Rick and seconded by Lyle Vance. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Approval of the minutes of June 7th, 2022.
I'll make a motion that we approve the minutes as of June 7th, 2022.
I'll second it.
Moved by Connie and seconded by Wes. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Motion passes. All right. Kim. Kim's not here.
Not here. Oh, that's right.
Oh, I saw her this morning. Maybe she has gone. She is probably gone. We want to thank Kim for her years of service. She's spent 20 years as the library director. And I was just over there this morning and going over some things, and they've got some great things going on. We just want to make sure Kim knows how much we appreciate her. Public hearing. There's two parts to this. The first part, Part A, to consider adopting the final budget entitled the Tremonton City Annual Implementation Budget 2022 to 2023, General Fund, Capital Funds, Enterprise Funds, and Special Funds for the period commencing July 1st, 2022, and ending June 30, 2023. Sean, do you want to take it from there? And
This is the final budget that we're talking about?
this is the final budget.
Adopting.
Adopting the final budget.
Yeah. So we've been discussing the budget for many council meetings leading up to this. So we have, based upon the city council's conversation at the last meeting, balanced the budget. And, some of the highlights in the budget, as we've talked about, is increases in cost of living adjustments for employees in general, selective salary adjustments for the police and public works, some of those departments that are in demand and the market's really changed as far as their wage and compensation. So we are we're proposing a budget that keeps those wages competitive. I was going to say, I did want to highlight a few things. We made numerous small changes, not worth disclosing just by their nature, but I did include a few things that I did want to draw your attention to in this final budget, which ultimately you can decide what you would like to do or not. And I've shown those in highlighted text. One of the things that, as the city continues to change and evolve, one of the services that cities provide is access and information, access to information, and we've always done that by virtue of complying with the GRAMA, and we have no problem with providing information to people. But one of the things that's being proposed or contemplated as we've gone through the branding process, we've learned a few things, and it hasn't concluded yet, but one of the things that we've learned is there's a large group of residents, and this was ascertained by a survey, that consume information through social media. It was like 50% was done and received by social media, and the city's never dedicated resources for social media or being proactive on that platform. And we do have employees who do post from time to time, but what's being proposed is budgeting funds for a contract employee to be a social media manager. And the details aren't necessarily finalized, but there's money set aside within the budget to do that. And so that's, certainly this is a decision point. You could cut that out of the budget if you have no intent to consider that position, but we did put some funds into the budget, so I wanted to make you aware of that. So Lindsay, if you would, can you scroll? So that's the social media manager. Keep scrolling if you would.
Is that a full-time job then?
No, so it'd be a contract. We haven't put a lot of details to it, but what we envision is, like 10 hours a week. So the contract arrangement means that they wouldn't be a city employee, but we would enter into a professional contract with whoever was selected to do that work. And, the contract would be such that we could end the contract, if we felt like it wasn't achieving the objectives or, it wasn't really meeting the needs of the city. I would also point out the mayor started a newsletter, so we've really tried, some lessons learned in the recent past is we've really tried to change and improve the way that we provide information, and certainly the newsletter that the mayor's done has certainly been one of those. Years ago, Brett suggested that we, broadcast and record our meetings, and that's certainly been another step that we did several years ago. But this would just be another step in trying to essentially communicate, get information out to residents and inform them just on a social media platform. So this is, I just added some text about property tax. As you know, the proposal at this point is not to increase property tax. It's, to evaluate it potentially at another year, but to really see how things, how this fiscal year goes. That you're committing to essentially $500,000 of additional pay wages, and so that was my understanding of the last council meeting. So I just some explaining in text here, but if you would continue to scroll. It's just taxes, okay. Tourism grant, the city, we talk about trying to make strides on Main Street. One of the things that's been recommended actually since the 1980s is to have some type of wayfinding. The city did get a grant for wayfinding, and I don't know if, when I say wayfinding, they're directional signage to destinations. And the city has actually worked on a superficial level, identifying where those locations would be, what we would be directing individuals to, and it's based in part on a manual of uniform traffic control devices, which is a federal standards that UDOT subscribes to, and because most of these directional signage would be on a main street or UDOT road, and so we do have a grant to install some of those signs. I don't think that grant will pay for all of the signage, so it's being proposed in the general fund that we recognize that grant revenue of $40,000 and that we budget the expense in the general fund. But because what we're really trying to do is move people from off the freeways, and we did billboards several years ago. So once people get off those exits, we want to try to drive people further down into the downtown area. And so it would be the RDA that would pick up the other portion of that expense. And so we did budget some funds there. So if you would, the computer software, one of the things that we do, if we do a social media, we need to buy some additional software to help us record what those social media posts are. And we also have some other software that we would purchase that would help facilitate public engagement, and so that's in the budget as well. Oh, this is just to let you know that we did budget some funds to finish up the storage building at the Parks Department. What happens at this time of the year, we're closing out one budget, and and those appropriations lapse on June 30th. And so if a project's not completely finalized, we need to reappropriate some funds. And so I'm just drawing your attention that there's some carryover with the construction. They're waiting for some final pieces of material in order to install and close the project. Oh, so this is something that I want to draw your attention to. And I would just inform you, we're not doing property taxes, you well know. I feel like this budget is more dependent on growth-related revenues than any other budget that we've done, along with the economy being, sales tax. And so as we watch the economy, and as we start to see what happens with growth in the city and growth in general, but specifically growth in the city, we'll need to understand and interpret what's happening and make potentially some alternative plans. But in the water fund, for example, the city has budgeted revenues from impact fees. As we've talked about in the past, impact fees are comprised of two components typically. One is future facilities, and one is buy-in, is what we call it, for facilities that the city's already constructed. And as you well know, the city's constructed a secondary water system that is related to new growth. And so, for example, an impact fee for water is $4,000 for a single-family detached home. $1,000 is budgeted $1,000 is for buy-in. So $3,000 for future facilities, $1,000 to reimburse the city for what we've already paid. And the way that we estimate what those revenues are going to be is we take a 3-year average of building that's gone on in the city, and we sort of average that out. And so the water fund, for example, $200,000 is anticipated of buy-in revenue from impact fees. And so, 2008, for example, we saw in a short amount of time us, building being really strong and everything, occurring to almost overnight, that changed. And so I just want you to know that, I think it is fair and equitable that we recognize, these revenues, but the danger in that is if something drastically changes in the housing market, because we are anticipating $200,000 in revenue from impact fees that would essentially go towards our debt service for secondary water. The sale of fixed assets, you might recall several years ago, the city purchased a parcel of land for the primary objectives of securing water shares, and the real property associated with that purchase was then sold to Killian Outfitters LLC, and we entered into a trust deed where this individual was making payments, or this entity was making payments to the city. The full amount comes due this year. So that's $100,000 that they'll need to write a check to the city in December. So I did send them out a courtesy notice, a 180-day courtesy notice. In previous years, I reminded them that, this is the commitment that it comes due, and I haven't heard. So at this point, we're budgeting those revenues as well. There's also, if you would scroll down, you're going to see that there's $900,000 in carryover for construction costs for the secondary water system. And that's just what we anticipate is the amount that won't be completed by June 30th, and that will fall into fiscal year '23. I think something else that's occurring is affordable housing. As you know, it's an issue on a practical level, but it's also an issue on a policy level with the state legislature. They continue to revisit affordable housing and continue to evaluate the current state law and make adaptations to that. They recently adopted, in this last legislative session, changes to the affordable housing requirements for plans. And so we do need to comply with those new standards. I haven't really dug into those. We actually really have a short time frame, which we'll try our best to meet, but it's so difficult to continue to review plans and do all the planning work and also at the same time meet some of these state mandated, plans that we have to do. So we did budget some funds. That was a little commentary. I'm sorry. I'm just telling you it gets a little challenging sometimes to meet all of these growth related issues and mandates.
Sean?
Yeah.
This is partly why we would have apartments, we would have townhomes, we would have single dwellings. We have to offer those kinds of variety in order to comply with this House bill. Is that right?
Well, I need to look a little further because I'm not really sure exactly what the requirements are, but I think the framework in which the state's given to us, and I did briefly glance at what those changes are, just haven't really jumped in fully to those requirements. But the state requires us they give us a list of strategies which we need to declare that we're going to do. And we need to pick the strategies and identify those in the plans. One of the strategies that we've identified, which is the rezoning of property. That doesn't necessarily, when you rezone property, it doesn't necessarily guarantee that the housing's affordable per se. And so I just need to really understand what they're changing. But I think the state legislature is continuing to evaluate what the legislation they've created and is it really meeting the objectives on both a planning perspective and a reporting, because we have to create the plan, and then we've got to report on the plan.
Absolutely. And how often do you have to report that?
Annually,
Just annually?
every December. And they help provide some of the data that is used for that reporting, but it's a complicated issue, and they've, I think they realize there's some shortcomings on the data that they're helping provide to us, and I think everyone's trying to do the best job they can on a very difficult situation.
This would be one of the reasons why we have density that is more prevalent today more than ever, is because we're trying to comply with the direction we're receiving from the state.
Yes, absolutely. And I would also contrast, I think the law for affordable housing specifically applies to those cities that have a population over 5,000 people, and of course, we're twice that. But if you look at some of these other communities, that are surrounding us, they don't have that population, and they don't have that same, requirement for, strategies and complying with the strategies through a reporting process. So,
Through the City of Leagues, when they were talking about this, they were making comments that, if the cities can't manage themselves in making sure that there is affordable housing, that the legislatures would then take over and tell the cities what to do, and that's why they want you to report what we're doing and what we're trying to do.
yeah.
This would be a great thing to put in that social media thing so people can understand. There's pressure being put on from the state level with this kind of stuff too.
Yeah, I completely agree. And, they've talked about just having residential zones that doesn't separate residential uses or housing type. It's just essentially a residential zone. So then you get all kinds of different housing types within that zone. But you're completely right. It's really a policy issue that the legislature's following closely, and is certainly willing to create legislation and refine it, which is what you see here. So I did include, I think, frankly, we adopted a plan a short time ago, but the housing market's gone nuts. Pricing's changed, cost of living adjustments, and we really need to not only change our plan to comply with the requirements that the state has, but it might be a time to completely revisit our affordable housing in general, as far as looking at our AMI. That's the area median income, housing prices, and again, I'm not sure how in depth the state's requiring us, but I can tell you, I think our housing plan is out of date just by some of these economic forces that has been occurring, and so I do feel like it would be well to engage a Zions Bank, is who I would anticipate would be the firm or consultant we would use to actually create an affordable housing plan that looks at all of that information. So, and this would be paid out of, by the way, this is, again, the state's committed to affordable housing. And so one of the things that they've done is, in these redevelopment agencies, they've mandated a certain amount of tax increment that the RDAs receive go towards affordable housing. And so we would use some of that affordable housing funds to complete this project. This project being the creation of updating of our affordable housing plan. One of the things I'm just going to put a plug in, and I won't spend much time, but we created this historic district, and one of the things I've been trying to lobby some of our state legislatures to do is, if you have a home that's within the historic district, that's a contributing building, you're eligible for essentially tax credits. And a lot of the housing stock within our affordable housing, because it's older, needs work, needs some rehabilitation, and becomes therefore more affordable. And so I've been reaching out, trying to work with legislators to essentially increase the amount of tax credits that they give to those people who meet low to moderate income. And I think it's a good way for us to hit the objective of trying to revitalize that area and try to meet some of the affordable housing requirements. And so if you get a chance to sort of plug that with the, Scott Sandel and others that you come in contact with, I think that would help not only the individuals, but the city. So I think that's pretty much it. If you would just scroll down, I think the other one might be, that's it. So unless there's questions.
So what we wanted to do here is we wanted to give the public a good feel for what we're doing with this final budget and some of the changes in the budget. And at this point, we'd like to open this up for public comment. It's a public hearing, so if you have anything to say about the budget, about what we're talking about right here, we would like to hear from you. Like I said, this is a public hearing right now, so we're opening up the public hearing. I'll read this again to you so you can remember what we're talking about. Part A is to consider adopting the final budget entitled the Tremont City Annual Implementation Budget for 2022 to 23, the General Capital and Enterprise and Special Funds for the period commencing July 1, 22 and ending June 30, 23. So that's Part A, and I think we have to do them one at a time, don't we? Mm-hmm. Okay. Okay, no comments. So, public hearing for Part A is, did you want, you slipped right in there, didn't you, Jeff? Okay, come on up.
Hi, my name is Jeff Hote, resident here in Tremont. Just a comment and a follow-up with the discussion that y'all just had on the moderate income housing, as the state would call it. I did some pretty good research on this a couple of months ago, shared some information before, and we'll do some more follow-up research on it now. The state laws appear not as effective, perhaps, as a stated hope that they would be, and I think that's what you were alluding to, but being very politically correct in how you phrased everything. Kudos. I don't have to be now. I'm retired. But basically, they're requiring a plan and reporting. What they're not requiring is results. And I don't really see a state measurement for the actual results or a reporting process for that, which is unfortunate if they really expect the program to be effective. So in your plan from a year ago, you listed 2 locations here in the city that were moving toward moderate income housing. One of those being Matheson, and forgive me, I don't recall the other off the top of my head. And at a meeting of the Kiwanis Club here just 2.5 months ago, your Planning Commission chairman was with us and shared the information that none of the developments now have moderate income housing in them. I started with a question about Matheson, and specifically he said no. I said about any of the other ones, no. So it was a little discouraging for me with the state, quite frankly, that they really haven't set up an effective plan at this time for how they're going to really end up with a positive result in enhancement of moderate income housing. Yeah, the need's there. There's no doubt about it. And with the prices going where they've gone, very difficult for a lot of people to break in. I hear my neighbors who have their kids living at home, adult children have their kids living at home because there's no way they can afford to go out and buy anything. And even some of the rentals are beyond their reach at this point in time. And really, that's all I wanted to say is kudos to you. I hope the state gets its act together a little better in setting up an effective program, or maybe withdrawing on the program. And effective programs don't benefit anyone. Also, kudos if you're seriously looking at maybe a better plan that could be more effective at enhancing moderate income housing here in the city, because with the prices being so high, the developers, really all of this falls on the back of the developers, and there's too much incentive for them, while the market's been so high on housing for them to do moderate income housing. So please keep it up.
Thank you, Jeff. Thank you for your comment. Anybody else have any comments to make with regard to Part A? Okay, Part B is to consider amending the annual budget entitled the Tremont City Annual implementation budget 21 to 22, general capital enterprise and special funds for the period commencing July 1, 2021 and ending June 30 of 22. Sean, do you want to briefly explain what's kind of going on here, and then we can open it up for public hearing?
Sure. So this is, as part of the budgeting process includes and is our best estimate of estimate of revenues and our best estimate of expenses. And so every year, as those estimates need to be adjusted, we do a budget amendment. And this is the last budget amendment of the year. And really, at this point, we're just wanting to make sure that we don't supersede the appropriation that you've granted through some unexpected expenses. And so we're just truing up the budget for the most part. I'm not sure there's anything significantly to talk to you about that really jumps out. And frankly, Mark did a lot of this work, but we've done it. We've conveyed the information through a spreadsheet. In years past, we've come to realize that that's a really good way to see the information. And
Thank you.
yeah, and that's really Mark's brainchild and effort. He's done a great job. So you can certainly look at that, and if you want, we could even scrutinize it here, but I don't think there's anything significantly to draw your attention to that we haven't talked about. We did a pretty comprehensive and significant budget amendment several months ago in anticipation of trying to free up some of our capacity for this busy season. So I would show you, I think what's more significant is looking at the next page, Lindsay. This is the appropriation. So these are estimates. And as you know, again, to comply with the state code, not only do we need to make sure that we don't exceed the appropriation, we also need to make sure that our general fund balance doesn't exceed, I think it's 24 or 25%. There's a restriction on how much we can have in fund balance in the general fund, not for capital projects funds or enterprise funds, but in the general fund. And so at the end of the year, we assign different percentages to different capital project funds that would move some of the fund balance to those funds. And as you know, and we've talked about this a great deal, so I won't go into a lot of detail, but generally we think of these as sales tax dollars, which the legislature has identified for capital projects and indebtedness. And so we looked at some of these upcoming expenses, with roads frankly being the significant expense that we see in the future for the city from a capital project perspective, or at least that's based on previous conversations. That's how we sort of understood and interpreted the priority to be. And so in the capital projects fund, we're saying 40% of any fund balance that exceeds that 25% in the general fund would go towards capital projects. Fund 40, and we've identified 1000 North and Iowa String as being some of those road projects that would occur there. We also looked at, and I think Lyle, you were trying to get a sense and scope. We do have about 1.5 million in there currently to do chip seals. And you were asking, we talked about strategically, we withheld doing road projects and transferred these funds to the capital project fund while we were doing secondary water projects and cutting the road. And we would come back and we would do a seal coat and chip seal and fog coat and essentially try to restore those roads to a better state. And with the estimate of 1.5 million, we feel like that would get about 16 miles of road that we could chip seal. And then I asked Paul identified that we've laid about 16 miles of water mains so far. So depending on how the bid comes and what occurs here in the next, the next construction cycle, it's possible that we could get pretty close to trying to chip seal all the roads that we've done and dug up through our secondary water to date. So
Next construction cycle then would be next spring.
So we would probably bid it in January, and it would be next spring. So we try to lock in the prices early And that's really sort of when people are looking to try to fill their construction schedule. These are contractors, they like to try to figure that out come the first of the year. So that's when we would go out to bid. So that's kind of where we're at on future road projects. And as you know, we're going to have a study done that is done by USU. Essentially, I think it's called T-Square, where they come in and evaluate our roads and evaluate the years of life left in roads. And so we'll have that information here this budget year as well. So we have some additional police vehicles, or not additional, we will need to replace some police vehicles. We anticipate that. So we're looking to move 10% into the capital equipment. Another 40% would be allotted to the Transportation Capacity Fund for different capacity projects, that we've identified, and 1000 North also being one of those, Beyond Mountain Road being one of those projects. We have an obligation to do 1650 West, a portion of that road, which comes due in a few years. And so for that reason, we feel like 40% would be appropriate to be allocated there. And then 10% to Main Street. Just our ongoing effort to try to improve Main Street. And we, at some future meeting, I'd love to share some ideas about maybe how to accomplish improving Main Street and making some incremental progress. So I've been visiting with Sarah Mormon. She has some really good ideas, and so I'd like to, and we have a lot of plans that we've done throughout the year, so we have all of that. And so anyways, I'd like to spend some time talking about that and maybe really reevaluating our approach and trying to make progress, on improving Main Street in light of all of these economic conditions that are a little challenging to do physical improvements. So, yeah.
Just before you leave this, I know this is going out on a limb, those 4 police vehicles.
Uh-huh.
Do we keep track of ours, Tremontans, and Garland keeps track of theirs?
Right.
Or are they getting meshed together?
No. No, our interlocal agreement does allow for officers to use the other cities' vehicles, but we do try to keep Tremont officers within Tremontan vehicles. But for purposes of maintenance or repairs or even assignments, sometimes that doesn't always happen as soon as we want. But they're separate. We replace our vehicles, Garland replaces theirs, and typically each officer drives their city's vehicles.
Okay.
That fair to say?
We do have an exception. We have a Garland officer that is a detective, and so she drives a Tremont vehicle. But then a Garland officer, so we swap, so it's even.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Again, we're still in public hearing mode right now. So we had Sean explain to us the amending the annual budget. Are there any comments? Going once? Okay. Thank you, everybody, and thanks for your comment, Jeff. Now, we do have the regular public comment period. This is an opportunity to address the council regarding your concerns or ideas, and we'll open that up right now.
Hey, I just wanted to remind you guys with the farmers market for July 2nd, that Zach and I have invited you guys
You'll
to
let
come
us off the hook.
participate. It'll be super fun. With the watermelon eating contest, this morning at Arts Council, we've decided to actually open the watermelon eating contest up for kids, teens, adults as well. So you would just be participating with the community in that. So it was just a reminder. Just let us know so we can make sure to have
Let us know for sure what time we need to be there.
10:30
10:30.
because we
But
want
we're
to start at 11.
But you're going to be doing setup at 7:30 still.
Yes, I can chat with you.
okay.
Yeah, or email you. But yeah, we just want to make sure to have enough watermelon for those that we know are going to come. But we did publicly put it out to social media today that there will be city leaders participating. And people already seem to be excited about it. So we just need to know a rough estimate. And I believe we've confirmed that Paul is going to help us with grilling the hot dogs to get out to the community, and some of the other park people are going to help us as well.
So is this watermelon seedless or? Okay, good.
Yes,
Okay.
and we'll cut it up nice so it's
Important
easy,
to know
you know.
whether or not we need to
No, and
practice
I'll even let
differently or.
I'll let you use your hands. Zach thinks you should do it without your hands. I was like, no, they can eat it normal.
I'm
So
not gonna be there, but I'll buy the watermelons, but I want a video of these guys.
husband record. Do a live video. But anyways, I just wanted to remind you guys, and then just give us either Zach or I, or even Mark, because Mark's going to actually be helping, because Zach will be out of town. Just let us know so we can make sure to have the things we need.
Sarah, thank you for all your hard work.
It's fun.
It is such a great thing for our community. I just can't say enough about it. I think it's amazing. And so thank you for your idea and getting involved and involving all those that help you. It is such a good thing for Tremonton. So thank you.
Thanks. I'm glad to help.
Thank you, Sarah. Okay, we're going to try to get out of here before 10 o'clock tonight. That's our goal.
Since we've been.
New council business. Discussion and consideration of adopting resolution number 22-29, approving a final budget, which is based upon a proposed property tax increase entitled the Tremonton Annual Implementation Budget 2022 to 23, General Capital Enterprise and Special Funds for the period commencing July 1, 2022 and ending June 30th, 2023. Sean?
I don't have any more to add unless there's questions.
I think we need to make one thing, one thing clear. This is not, we're not asking for a tax increase. We're not going after the truth in taxation. I had a brain freeze there for a second. We're not going after truth in taxation. The increase that, correct me if I'm wrong here, Sean, the increase that it was talking about is related to growth.
Which is based upon a proposed,
No, that doesn't make sense.
no, I think this is bad language,
Okay, so that's what I was trying to explain. I think.
but you did.
So that's what we're talking about is whatever increases in the budget, which there is an increase in the budget, that will come in the form of growth.
We'll talk about that the next agenda. I
Okay.
think simply said, it's a clerical error. We sometimes use the previous year's
Okay.
agenda and
Which
that-
we did have an increased
Yeah,
property.
so I
tax.
apologize for that. That's,
Okay, so
good.
can we clarify that somehow?
Can we just put not proposed on property tax?
That's what I would think.
yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Maybe we can,
Not a proposed budget.
and Sean has spent quite a bit of time, maybe we can have somebody,
Motion?
can you clarify the terminology then
Yeah.
in your motion?
Are you ready for a motion? I'll make a motion this evening that we adopt resolution number 22-2029, approving a final budget which is not based upon a property tax increase.
Thank
I
you.
second it.
It's been moved by Connie and seconded by Lyle Vance. Roll call.
Rick, I.
Lyle Vance, aye.
Connie Archibald, aye.
Wes, I.
Thank you, everybody. Motion passes. Part B, discussion and consideration of adopting resolution number 22-30, approving the certified tax rates. This is what we're going to answer here. Approving the certified tax rates for 2022. Sean, can you talk about that? Maybe just talk about the part that's associated with growth.
Yeah, so just briefly, the process is every year the county auditor will calculate the certified tax rate, which is essentially calculating the amount of revenue that we got last year plus new growth, and based upon the values of the assessor. And as you know, it is limited to essentially the same amount of revenue, which for this fiscal year, the certified tax rate is supposed to deliver $1,918,000 in change. And for next year, the certified tax rate is going to deliver $1,196,000 and change. And it equals about an $80,000 increase attributed to growth in the tax base. And Val can check to make sure, but it's somewhere in that $80,000 range. And so what that really represents is, with the growth in the tax base comes an ongoing obligation to provide services. So while we recognize the revenue, we also recognize the obligation to provide services to the new residents of our city. So.
Okay. Any questions from the council?
I've got to go back and ask them, so what was last year's?
$1,918,000.
15,000, so there's like an $80,000 gain
Yeah,
from.
I think it's
the new growth.
$78,000 gain.
Yeah, 80,000. So that's the new growth that we're talking about. Everybody needs to understand that.
Right.
There is an increase, but it's, incremental.
All attributed to the increase in taxable value. So not assessed value. You know what I mean? Because the assessed value would be compensated by changing the certified tax rate. And I hope there was a really good KSL video that we saw, and I emailed it out to everyone. And it really talked about trying to clear up, trying to add some additional clarification to the public about essentially the certified tax rate property values. So it's essentially, this is increase in taxable value, not increased in assessed value, because the certified tax rate is going to change to deliver the same amount of revenue as previous years. And I'd also just remind you that, because we do have a project area that includes the Wasatch Apartments, that's a large amount of increase in taxable value, and the RDA is capturing 75%, of that increase in taxable value. So we'll just continue to watch and see how
But we do
taxes
get the
grow.
25%. Maybe next year
It will reflect in this number.
it'll
Yeah.
reflect a higher number next year.
Yeah.
It's the other side that reimburses back the developer
And
until that gets bought and paid for, the canal
yeah,
covering.
absolutely. And then ultimately, the RDA should have some funds on the back, eventually to try to improve Main Street, which was the objective of the RDA.
So 40 million would probably be 100 grand on the 25% side.
Probably close to, yeah.
All right, council, I'd entertain a motion on this one.
Make a motion that we approve resolution number 2230, approving the certified tax rates for 2022 tax year.
I'll second that one.
Moved by Rick and seconded by Wes. Roll call.
Rick, aye.
Lyle Vance, aye.
Honey Archibald, aye.
West Eye.
Thank you, everybody. Motion passes. All right, discussion and consideration of adopting resolution number 22-31, approving the revised city council compensation and classification plan. Sean?
So every year, as part of the budgeting process, we update our compensation classification plan to match the COLA. So the compensation classification plan identifies the minimum and maximum of each paid position within the city. There were also some other changes that I'll just draw your attention to. For some reason, the library and the senior center were not in the same pay scale as all the other department heads, and so we rectified that with this compensation plan. And scroll down, if you would, to we also envisioned the need at some point to create some mid-management for the police department. And so that would come in the form of a lieutenant or assistant police chief, depending upon who might fill that position. But right now, currently, we have a vacancy in the police chief, and we feel like, based upon past experience, that we need some additional administrative support and above the sergeant level to help with the administrative responsibilities of the police department. So that's what one of these positions would do. So those are included in the compensation and classification plan. And I think, Lindsay, would you keep scrolling? Is that pretty much it? Is there any others to really draw you? In the interest of time, I think that I would say those are the significant issues.
Question, how soon does this get implemented?
July 1.
One,
Okay,
them guys are looking forward to one day with that new pay raise on their check for one
I'll
day.
bet. We've been talking about this for months. I make a motion that we adopt resolution number 22-31, approving the revised Tremont City compensation and classification plan.
I'll second that motion.
Been moved by Lyle Vance and seconded by Connie. Roll call.
Rick, I.
Lyle Vance, aye.
Connie Archibald, aye.
Wes, I.
Thank you, everybody. Motion passes. All right, discussion and consideration of adopting resolution number 22-32, amending the budget entitled the Tremont City Implementation Budget. I'm not off a line here. Let's see, implementation budget for 21 to 22, general capital enterprise funds and special funds for the period commencing July 1, 21 and ending June 30, 22. Better put on something so I can see. Sean, do you want to bring us up to speed on this one?
No, not unless there's other questions.
I think we've pretty well discussed this one.
Yes.
Okay. I'll entertain a motion. Let's start on the other side this time. Wes?
I'll make a motion that we consider adopting resolution 22-32, amending the budget.
I'll second it.
Been moved by Wes and seconded by Lyle Vance. Wes, why don't you start us off on the roll call?
Wes, I.
Connie Archibald, aye.
Lyle Vance, aye.
Rick, I.
Motion passes. Thank you, everybody. Discussion and consideration of adopting resolution number 22-33, approving an amended land acquisition agreement between Tremont City and Jesse F. Corder for the purpose of acquiring a right-of-way for the continuation of the 950 East Collector Road of Main Street.
Yeah. So Lindsay, if you would scroll down to one of the, well, I would just show you and say real quickly that our transportation master plan always envisioned that we would have 950 East extend from north of Main Street all the way up into Garland. And it'll line up with one of those intersections that they're putting in Garland right now on what we call 1000 North. So if you would scroll down. So in anticipation of that, we worked with Jesse Corder and Knut Friedal and acquired property through the Corridor Preservation Fund. And at the time, our standards were different for radiuses at that intersection. And so if you would scroll down to the next. So what we've done is approach Jesse to get a larger radius on the right-of-way that we have already acquired, which would better accommodate larger vehicles turning onto Main Street. There's 447 square feet. It got appraised for $4,100, if I remember correctly, which is what this purchase agreement would do, would pay Jesse that $4,100 in exchange for that 400 feet that we need for a radius. I would also just let you know that we are working with UDOT and the developer. This is the location that's been identified as a traffic light in the future. And so we're working on a cooperative agreement where the developer, UDOT, and the city would sign that would have the developer being obligated to install the traffic signal at a certain period of time in their development process, which is according to a study that was done. And so that's something that I anticipate being on a future agenda to formalize that agreement. And so the reason why the city's involved, because it is a UDOT road, UDOT's already permitted access onto the road, but UDOT doesn't necessarily have the ability for future development to stop the development, but we can. And so that's one of the reasons why we're involved in that agreement is to essentially withhold building permits until they've installed the street light or traffic light, I should say, at whatever the threshold is that's been identified.
How many square feet did we buy again?
This will be 447.
$10 a square foot. Right?
$10 a square foot.
Pretty close to that. Yep.
I make a motion, we adopt resolution number 22-33. Land acquisition.
I'll second.
Moved by Lyle Vance and seconded by Rick. Roll call. Wes?
West Eye.
Connie Archibald, aye.
Al Vance, aye.
Rick, aye.
Thank you, everybody. Discussion and consideration of adopting resolution number 22-34, authorizing the write-off of uncollectible accounts receivable for ambulance services for fiscal year 2022 in Fund 28 of the Fire Department. Shari, were you going to do this for us, or?
What was the total? I looked, but I don't remember. 200 and,
204.
yeah.
205. 867.17.
5867. Since I haven't been here before, is that somewhat normal? Where was we last year? Close?
It wasn't quite that high,
But,
but I feel, and I hate to blame things on COVID, but we couldn't do small claims on any of those during that time, so that's why we had to send more to collections. But I feel like I could have got some from people, but we couldn't do it, so.
Boy.
I don't think it's too far out of line, though.
Yeah, and then we're trying to close out that old ambulance system, and we're, getting this new one going, so I think, there was just some that needed to be off.
Boy, they're from all over the country, aren't they?
Yeah.
You ready for a motion, Mayor?
I am.
I'd make a motion this evening that we adopt resolution number 22-34, authorizing the write-off of uncollectible accounts as shared with us for the ambulance services.
Okay.
I'll second that.
Moved by Connie.
Thank you, Shari, for doing all you could.
Yeah.
I'll try.
That's how much we're paying
An acre.
an acre.
Took my breath away there for a second. Let's see. We got a motion by Connie and a second by Wes. Wes, why don't you start this one?
West Eye.
Connie Archibald, aye.
Al Vance, aye.
Rick, aye.
Thank you. Discussion and consideration of adopting resolution number 22-35, authorizing the write-off of uncollectible accounts receivable for utility services in the enterprise funds and fire truck cleanup in the fire fund for fiscal year 22. Shari, can you fill us in on that one too?
Yeah, so the first part of that's utility bills that we couldn't collect on, the 2,664.69. And then the second part of that is for fire cleanup when it had to go out on hazmat and people don't live here and that first guy was in Canada. So the total on that's $4,420.34.
So explain what happened here again.
So if there's an accident, I think this was a semi-accident. And
Oh.
so the fire department's called out to do cleanup, the hazmat cleanup, and then. we
Okay,
They don't
okay. All right. Thank you. All right. Entertain a motion?
I'll make a motion that we adopt Resolution 2235, authorizing the write-off of uncollectible accounts.
Let's see, 22-34? I think,
35.
is it 35? I'm off one, sorry. I was off one.
I'll second it.
Okay, moved by Rick and seconded by Wes. Rick, why don't you start this one?
Rick, aye.
Lyle Vance, aye.
Connie Archibald, aye.
West side.
Thank you, everybody. That motion passes. Thanks, Shari. Okay. Discussion and consideration of adopting resolution number 22-36, ratifying the Aspen Ridge Phase 3 Development Agreement. Sean?
So this is a development that's been approved, and this agreement's been recorded as allowed by our land use ordinance. And I'm not sure there's a lot to draw your attention to specifically.
Remind us where this one is.
Me.
Just north of Blake
Yeah,
Christensen's.
okay, I know where
my
you're
house.
talking. Right over there by you.
Yeah, and they've complied with all the requirements, paid all the fees. So this just formalizes what those approvals are in an agreement that's recorded with the property. And any successor in interest would have to abide by these obligations, which is why we record them in the recorder's office.
Council? Any questions?
I'll make a motion.
Okay,
I'll make a motion that we adopt resolution number 22-36, ratifying the Aspen Ridge Phase 3 Development Agreement.
I'll second.
been moved by Connie and seconded by Rick. All in favor, Rick?
Rick, aye.
Lyle Vance, aye.
Connie Archibald, aye.
West side.
Motion passes. Discussion and consideration of adopting ordinance number 22-06, amending provisions from Title III, City Government Part 3-925, powers and duties of the manager of the revised ordinances of Tremont City Corporation, modifying the manager's duties to appoint persons to city offices with the advice and consent of the city council. Sean, do you want to bring us up to date on that one?
Yeah, this is a proposed change in our ordinance. So one of the powers and duties of the manager position is that they can appoint department heads with the council's consent, which really means in the end, you appoint the person, and you can either advise me or give me some further direction on a candidate that you would essentially approve. And so what's being proposed here is for all the department heads and the assistant city manager, ultimately you have the final say in who's appointed. And this would expand that process to include positions such as assistant police chief, assistant fire chief, and public works director. And I would say that it does say may, so it doesn't necessarily have to be that, but it would just allow you to essentially have the final say in the appointment process.
Something that we're looking at. Someday in the chief and the police and public works, I kind of like the idea.
And we talked about this in a previous meeting, and, advised and consent of the city council. I'll go ahead and make the motion to adopt ordinance number 22-06.
I'll second that motion.
Moved by Lyle Vance and seconded by Connie. Let's see, I'm Rick.
Rick, aye.
Lyle Vance, aye.
Connie Archibald, aye.
West side.
Thank you, everybody. All right, that concludes our new council business. Calendar items, do we need anything? We have the farmer's market coming up. We've got several summer activities coming up. Sean, do you have anything?
No, other than just what's listed there, the Chalk Affair, June 25th, Tremont City Days, 22nd through the 23rd.
Can
Of
I
July.
just say one thing about the heydays?
Maybe.
On everything that you see, there's no hay. It's all wheat on there. It's hay days, and yet
Yeah, I noticed
there is
that
not
too.
a stem of hay on our.
Zach ought to know better than that, huh?
I hope somebody does something. Or we'll call it hay and beet days, or
A and beat days. Huh?
hay and wheat days.
It's that also.
Yeah.
And Mayor, we all need to be just reminded that we are all helping with the breakfast on the 23rd,
Yeah, on the
right?
23rd. This,
Yep.
Third, yes.
On
the 23rd, on the 23rd, yeah.
For our wonderful citizens, we're going to serve breakfast, and it's a heck of a good breakfast. I wouldn't want to miss it.
It is. Sure is.
So good.
Jenny Stevens.
Jeannie Stevens Park, please come.
7 to 9?
Is it 7 in the morning?
8.
8 to 10?
Okay.
Yeah, 7:30 we arrive, I think. Is that right?
Yeah, it starts at 8 o'clock.
It's fun. It's good food.
Lindsay, make sure you got a man-size cooking, whatever babe you call them or something, okay? For me.
They had a tent there for me last year.
Then I'll wear your old tent, you can get a new one.
All right. Is there any unfinished business or action items that we need to discuss that we left unfinished?
Yeah, I got a couple of the Meals on Wheels with Bragg.
Oh,
That ever happened with Mark?
You know, I reached out to Roger. Roger with Bragg, he's the executive director, and then left it with Mark. So Mark's out of town currently. So Roger does know we want to meet with him, and he's willing to meet. So we just need to pick the date. So we haven't forgotten about it. I think we
Be
just,
happy to participate.
Yeah.
I think that sounds great.
And then Crossroads UDOT, have they done the study out there at the Crossroads, or are they doing the study?
We had a meeting with UDOT last week,
Last
been
Wednesday?
10 days ago anyway, probably. We all met out there to the Crossroads, and it looks like it's going forward. We talked about a roundabout, and we talked about signals. The roundabout is significantly more expensive, in the millions more expensive. And then the signal lights, the problem, we were sitting there and we sort of, you just have to sit there for a minute and see all of the truck traffic that goes through that intersection. And that, they'd have to make that roundabout quite large to be able to handle all that truck traffic, the semis and everything going through there. So, but it was very positive. I felt like we were, they had a term that they used, that they go to the next level, whatever that next level is. And then you were going to get, maybe there were some funds from some other sources.
right. So it did approve, because I don't think we've talked about it in a public forum, but UDOT did do a study that identified that there needs to be a traffic signal at the Crossroads. And Lyle reported on the meeting, and what's occurring, the next steps forward is they're going to do this analysis, engineering analysis that looks at these two different options, which would be the roundabout and the just typical traffic light. And part of that they'll look at the capacity of both of those traffic measures, and then they'll also look at the costs. And at that point, I think we'll get the study, a copy of that study. Ultimately, UDOT is the entity that would fund it. They have no funding appropriated for the project, so it would go into on a list and then would be done when funding is available. But to the mayor's point, what he was talking about is I reached out to Bragg again to inquire about congestion mitigation funds. So because we're in what's called a non-attainment area with air quality, they've identified and restricted, I don't understand all of it, but it's a PT, I think, particulate matter 45. At any rate, they made a designation that we're in a non-attainment zone, which part of that designation comes with federal funds to help improve our air quality, which is through the mitigating congestion, which traffic control devices are. So there's about $500,000 that are available in that fund currently. So, I'll keep reaching out to Bragg to try to acquire those funds. I think because it's available to any entity within their jurisdiction, they'll put out a request for proposals and we'll need to, provide a competitive proposal, but I think we can.
So it's a UDOT road, and we're required to pay for it?
No, we're just trying to accelerate the installment of that through trying to participate by acquiring these funds. The quicker the funds can be realized, the quicker they will install it. So they don't have any funds identified for the project. So we're just trying to help,
These funds would
expedite
come from
it.
Bragg. They'd come from Bragg.
And they're ultimately federal funds.
Okay.
To give you some sense, I think they were throwing out, and again, this study, which will be completed in 60 days, will give us a better understanding, but they were saying about $2 million for a signal.
5 for the,
Yeah, 5 for the roundabout.
a lot of that was acquisition of additional land because it would have to be a large roundabout.
And there's a lot of road work, a signal doesn't typically cost that, but because they have to reconfigure the road and all the pavement work, removing islands, acquiring right-of-way, all that is what adds to that $2 million price tag.
Sean, do you have any other reports that you wanted to add? Do you have any DRC reports that you wanted to share with us?
I don't think there's anything new to talk about.
Okay.
We're just continuing to work through the same projects that have already made application.
Okay. City Department Head, Shari, Brian, Shari, do you have anything to share you want to bring up? Okay. Everybody else is on vacation. All right. Council reports. Anybody want to share? Have anything you want to share?
Just say that I've already mentioned the farmer's market, how well that's going, and then a thanks to everyone that helped with, and especially to the mayor and his family, his wife, for the flowers on Main.
Oh,
They're a hit.
yeah, hopefully we can
thank you.
keep them growing. Yeah,
Yep,
they,
keep them growing.
yep, there you
Who
go.
waters those?
Blaine Williams.
Blaine does it now still.
And I just learned that sometimes it's 2 a.m. that he's out
3
there
o'clock. He's going by 3
by 3.
every day.
That's amazing. He's 80,
4.
86, 84. He's an amazing man.
I love them. though.
Yes, sir.
Excuse me.
You're not
I had
supposed to, you're not
something
here.
caught in my throat. I still had a couple more things in follow-up.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, the study, the engineer study on the water, have we heard anything on that?
No, I don't have any updates on that.
We got to be getting close to that.
Yeah.
Are you talking about the well?
The well,
Yeah.
up there on the hillside, that's going to be big news to us if that
Oh,
can
you're
work
not
out.
kidding.
Yeah, we'd follow up with that. And then the septic tanks, I'd like to have a work session put together and invite the health department to come and maybe start making some groundwork.
That's been done.
Good point.
That's done.
It's in the process. We're scheduling that for July 5th to have the health department.
Father's Day.
Awesome, thank you.
Want to share anything else?
One other thing I would actually say, as it relates to the senior center, we continue to send out invoices, and we recently got a check from Fielding,
Oh, that's right.
about $10,000.
Wow.
Oh, and I really do feel like as we continue to make a concerted effort to have some political persuasion and continue to send invoices, I think we'll continue to gain ground.
You're kinder than I am because I saw all of the additions you had to put on the budget to increase, to pay for that stuff. That 10,000 might help cover
12% of
that.
that, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm done carrying Garland on our shoulders. They need to step up. It's not right for our constituents to have to pay for Garland's people and them not support. So it's just wrong.
Well, and there's Elwood too. I mean, Elwood is another 10,000. So, I mean, I agree. We just need to continue to inspire people to partner with us.
Good word. Inspire.
There's two ways of inspiring.
You're the baker.
There's the
Legal and
final
one's not.
notes.
Well,
Pat them on the back and say, someday you might come to terms in your own mind what's right and wrong.
I'm with
Final
you.
notice, huh?
But thanks to Fielding for recognizing that they have citizens that utilize that service.
Yeah.
And as all these communities start to really look at who utilizes that service, they have a lot
Yeah.
of people that benefit from that, and they all need to look at their budgets and
Mark
make.
Mark has done an analysis on this, and so, he can kind of show how much we contribute and the number of residents we have versus, the others and how much they should be contributing. So he's done a great, when he gets back, we'll have to ask him to share that.
We did.
You showed it last meeting.
We showed it.
Yeah, yeah. it's-
Unless
I
he's
just can't
updated
remember.
it.
I'm getting
Yeah,
old.
we've seen it.
Garland's
We're about
like-
$80,000 on
Right,
top of everything
Right.
else.
right. All right. Wes, do you have anything to share with us?
I don't, except like I said, I would like to be excused in person for July, but I will Zoom or whatever I need to be.
On the 5th?
On the 5th.
Fifth, whatever, yeah.
Yeah, it's the 5th.
Okay. Rick, do you have anything for us?
He's not asking me again.
I'm asking you. You just got to put that thing away.
Okay, there it goes.
All right, now I'll ask you. You got anything else?
Nope, I'm done. I just put it away.
All right,
I don't have anything, Mayor.
okay. I had had some people comment about the 1,000 North. They're saying they're having a hard time dodging the chuck holes and everything else up along there. So, just reporting that there are people that are concerned about the quality of the road up there.
We're trying to fill them, Lyle, just so you know, we're out there getting the worst of what we can and
Yeah,
what we have to work with.
okay, good deal. Thank you, everybody. I think that concludes it concludes this part of our deal. I'd entertain a motion
I'll make a motion, we
Adjourn.
adjourn
and then go into,
the RDA.
yeah.
Second it.
It's been moved, we adjourn our session here and open our RDA session. You're welcome to stay for this. It's going to be you've had enough, huh? Okay, but you are welcome to stay. And this is a brief meeting, by the way. It doesn't take long. All right,
All in favor?
all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, everybody.
Now, what page we gotta go to get to?
Go back to your,
RDA packet.
Oh, that's right. Sometimes I wish I could pull them up like that.
Yeah.
Instead of on pages.
Yeah.
you may be able to do it through your view.
I go right here and I just go click.
Well, yeah, but see,
Yeah, yeah,
number 3 up
Yeah,
there is
yeah.
page 27 or
yeah,
something.
yeah. Okay, we're here. We've arrived.
Okay, we're having our redevelopment RDA meeting, June 21st, 22. Approval of agenda,
Make a motion, we approve the agenda.
I'll second it.
moved by Rick and seconded by Connie. All in favor?
Aye.
Approval of the minutes, June 7th.
Make a motion, we approve the minutes of June 7th, 2022.
I'll second.
Been moved by Lyle Vance and seconded by Rick. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, we have a public hearing, and this will be fast. Consider adopting the proposed final budget entitled the RDA Redevelopment Agency of Tremont City Annual Implementation Budget 22 to 23 for RDA District Number 2, Fund Downtown and Tremont and West Liberty Foods, EDA 172, what is that, 172, what is that?
I think that's the taxing district. not
Taxing district, okay. Commencing July 1, 22 and ending June 30, 23.
No one here. So we forego.
Do we need any update on that?
Oh, for the, there's nothing outstanding, although I would say that we did propose, the appropriation of more funds within the downtown RDA. One of them we've talked about relative to wayfinding, and then just some other just funds for general light items. But, beyond that, I think we really talked about in the city council, the other one being the affordable housing plan and appropriating funds for a consultant
Okay.
to help us.
Part B, this public hearing has been canceled. What does this mean?
So we have to notice sometimes before the opportunity of going through and evaluating if we actually do need to amend the budget. So we did notice, and we then came to the conclusion that there are no amendments needed. So we just listed there because we.
So we don't
actually
need to
noticed.
do anything with this?
It's been canceled.
Okay. This ends the public hearing. Discussion and new business, discussion and consideration of adopting resolution number RDA 22-04, adopting the final budget entitled the Redevelopment Agency of Tremonton City Annual Implementation Budget 2022-23 for RDA number 2 fund, downtown and Tremont and West Liberty Foods, EDA 172 for the fiscal year commencing July 1, 22 and ending June 30, 23.
I'll make a motion that we approve resolution number RDA 22-04, adopting the final budget.
Been moved. Is there a second?
Second that.
Moved by Rick and seconded by Connie. Roll call.
Rick, aye.
Lyle Vance, aye.
Connie Archibald, aye.
West I.
Motion passes. We have one more.
Motion we adjourn.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Is there a unanimous vote?
Yes.
Aye.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you for everything you do. We accomplished some great things today.
Yeah, thanks.
You guys have done a lot of hard work, so
I'll say.
appreciate it.
You too. We've had 2 long meetings. So.
But they were enjoyable.
Yeah.
Good company.
I agree.
Like me a home for
I
what?
thought it went really, really well. And so I think we spilled the beans. This thing off.
How do we spill the beans?